Your stars, be sure to check me out on Instagram and Twitter, and be sure to check out my video, Dear Star Wars Fans. Links to all three of those will be down in the description below. Enjoy. Hey guys, it is McKein Mull here, back today with another review, I guess. This will be my first top 10 list kind of thing, guys, so I review movie history so you can prepare for your movie future. This is, of course, a Star Wars special, considering what is coming out, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, and the official trailer just right around the corner next month. I figured why not do my top 10 Star Wars films, or all the Star Wars films ranked from my least favorite to favorite. Okay, so let's start off at the very bottom, number 14. Okay, number 14 is Star Wars: The Christmas Special, 1978. This was basically just a mixture of a bunch of Star Wars short stories that really offered nothing special, and it actually ended with a musical number from Princess Leia. The only cool thing this movie really had to offer was introducing the world for the first time to Boba Fett in an animation cartoon short, which was actually not too bad. I wouldn't mind seeing a TV series based around that. But aside from that, you see Ewoks and how they live, and Wookiees, and some of the characters don't look right. This must have been after Mark Hamill's accident. So it was just a clunky mess of meaningless story plots, and it was not worth it. Okay, coming in at number 13 is Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Alright, now this animated movie that kicked off the animated series that was, in my opinion, Emmy-winning, was actually just a compilation of like 4 of the first 4 episodes, edited together to make a feature-length film so they could put it in theaters because George Lucas liked it so much. This movie is another one that really just didn't have much to offer. A lot of fans were confused when it first came out. Anakin Skywalker as an apprentice? What? I mean, a lot of it didn't make any sense. The story's kind of slow. You get some okay action in it. Some of the original actors came back, like Samuel L. Jackson and Christopher Lee, the late Christopher Lee, may he rest in peace, to reprise their roles, and even Frank Oz, I think, came back as Yoda, if I remember correctly. Aside from that, though, guys, the film really was nothing special, and was really just there to kind of as a cash grab and to kick off the series that would later be known for bringing the legendary Darth Maul back. Coming in at number 12 is the 1980s movie. It takes place after Return of the Jedi, Star Wars: Caravan of Courage. Now this was just a direct-to-TV movie with some pretty bad acting, focusing on these 2 kids who run into the Ewoks and they try to find their parents, and they get this caravan of brave Ewoks to rescue their parents from this giant monster on the moon of Endor, and it's really not that great of a story. The acting is kind of weak. It's kind of just a cute little kid Star Wars film. Honestly, it probably deserves more credit than I'm giving it for. If you're introducing really, really young viewers into it, you know, you can maybe show them it after showing them the original trilogy. But aside from that, the movie doesn't offer much, and it's kind of just there, really. It doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the story either. And then that will lead us into our number 11 spot, Star Wars: The Battle for Endor, which was the sequel to The Caravan of Courage, literally coming out the next year, and another direct-to-video, or direct-to-video, direct-to-TV movie, and it had all the same cast as Caravan of Courage. Only this one was a little darker and a little bit better. Actually had a real villain in it, which was actually could be kind of creepy to younger viewers. This one was much more mature in the sense of the visuals and stuff were a little scarier, and the opening sequence is literally just death. It pretty much undid everything. The Caravan of Courage was about saving the family. In the first 10 minutes, they undo all of that. I mean, all the first movie is completely pointless. You might as well just jump straight to the Battle for Endor and enjoy it for what it is, because it's the better of the two. Now, coming in at number 10 is Star Wars: Attack of the Clones. Now, here is our first live-action theatrical release on the list, and probably my lowest. There are sequences in this movie that aren't enough to redeem the movie as a whole. George Lucas said he wanted this to be the romance entry in his saga, and honestly, these two actors just have no chemistry at all. And a lot of Hayden Christensen's lines come across as monotone and uncharacterized. It's just some of the worst acting, some of the worst dialogue, and some of the worst plot in a Star Wars ever. I mean, it's not really that great, but it is the movie that introduced us to the Clone Wars. It is the movie that showed us our first big, epic lightsaber fight at the end of a movie, and it was also the movie that showed us Yoda being a total and absolute badass with a lightsaber. I was actually one of the fans that actually enjoyed seeing Yoda kick ass with a lightsaber. It was a nice addition to the movie. The ending war scene on Geonosis was great, and honestly, it's one of the better parts of the movie. Now coming in at number 9 for me would be Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, the first movie in the prequel trilogy, and the first movie 16 years waiting for another Star Wars film, and we got The Phantom Menace. Now, the reason I put this in my number 9 spot is, as far as structured, I would say this would be one of the better structured films out of the prequels. If it wasn't for Jar Jar Binks, this actually could be a decent, at least decent Star Wars movie. And so Darth Mull was really cool. I think they could have replaced a lot of Jar Jar, thrown us more of what Darth Mull is and who he is, more about his character. Could have gotten to know more about him. And I didn't feel like a lot of what we saw with Anakin on Tatooine was needed. I loved the character of Qui-Gon. I like seeing Ewan McGregor play young Obi-Wan. I wish they would have, if they did do young Anakin, I wish they would focus more on Obi-Wan creating a bond with his future pupil rather than Qui-Gon building a bond with him, considering Qui-Gon's on after this. Spoiler alert, kind of. And another thing I liked was obviously the ending fight with Darth Maul and the pod race. Those were two pretty cool scenes. You have to admit, these prequels had some pretty cool moments in them. Coming in at number 8 for me, Solo Star Wars story. This isn't really a needed Star Wars film. It's not a bad Star Wars movie by any means. It's actually quite enjoyable. It's just not Star Wars. Usually for me when Star Wars comes out, it's an event. This is something. The brand Star Wars means something is happening. You know, watch this. This is important. And by the time Solo came out, it kind of felt like Star Wars brand had lost that. It didn't feel like a big event was happening when a Star Wars film came out anymore. And it didn't offer anything new to the table. It's a perfectly fine movie. It's enjoyable. It's kind of cool to see a different side of the Star Wars universe. But as far as it being a Han Solo movie, this is It's all stuff we already pretty much knew about Han. Didn't like how he got his name, didn't like how he got the blaster. I like Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian. I didn't like Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo. I mean, there's so many pros and cons here I could go between all day. But what it comes down to is we got an okay Star Wars film. Coming in at number 7 is Don't Not Kill Me for... Okay, first thing you guys need to know before we go into any more on my list is from here on, I liked all of these movies. It's just, this is what I would rank them as, from, you know, what I find most enjoyable to about what I can watch least amount, maybe. So number 7 is Star Wars Return of the Jedi. Please don't kill me. The reason I put this on here, guys, is I would kind of hope that instead of you seeing these little furry Ewoks fight this big epic battle that determined the fate of the galaxy, I would rather have gotten kind of a real battle between two equally opposing forces with equally amount of strength, even though, okay, maybe not even equal amount of strength, but at least the odds seem right. You know, they have guns, not spears and rocks, and I don't know, this fight, the ending fight just didn't do it for me. Now, all the stuff with Darth Vader, the Emperor, and Luke, that was some next level stuff. That is ahead of its time for a Star Wars movie. That was great. All the performances in this movie are really good. Honestly, though, even though I love Leia as Luke's sister, didn't that just kind of feel thrown in a little bit, you know? We didn't really need it anymore. Luke wasn't going to go to the dark side. He wasn't going to die, so we didn't really need another hope. But at the same time, we wouldn't have the 97 flavors of awesomeness that is Kylo Ren if it wasn't for Leia. So, but other than that, guys, that's kind of why it's on right here on my list. I had my problems with it. Nothing serious. It's a good movie, and I enjoy watching it to this day. Number 6. Star Wars The Last Jedi. Now, I actually saw this movie. I liked it quite a bit. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. It is a perfectly serviceable Star Wars movie. It has its problems. They wrote themselves into a corner for Episode 9, without a doubt. And some of the characters were done some disservice, but it's a good Star Wars movie. It's dark. I loved it. Snoke got nerfed, but matter of fact, we're changing that to he got snoked from now on. But other than that, guys, I liked this movie. And when Snoke was on screen, Andy Serkis kills it. I mean, he absolutely nails it. Andy Serkis is hands down the best motion capture actor out there. Possibly one of the best actors at all. And I'll forever remember him in this role. So just that alone is a good reason to go see this movie, is his performance, even though it's a little bit, you know, I don't get to see a whole lot of him. The Last Jedi, I really liked it. Kylo Ren is awesome. Still a little more whiny. All the stuff on the island with Luke and Rey was great. Top-notch Star Wars stuff. Ryan Johnson did okay with it. Next on my list, guys, I'm going to try and speed up from here, is number 5, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. Definitely the reason why they should have continued the spin-off films. Just have a little more distance in between them. I do want to know more about this universe, though, and the spin-off movies were a good way to do it. And Rogue One was a brilliant idea. How did they get the Death Star plans? How did they know that ventilation shaft was there? It answered some plot points, kind of filled in the gaps to make A New Hope that much more enjoyable. And if we got to meet some new characters that were at least somewhat interesting, maybe not the best fleshed out characters in the Star Wars movies, but they fulfilled the purpose of the movie. We got some really bad moments in this film. We got to see the Death Star again, and we got to see its effects up close. This was a very good Star Wars movie. One I would like to see more. It proved that you don't need lightsabers in the Force to make a good Star Wars film. Seeing the war aspect of it, the Star Wars aspect of it, can be just as interesting as seeing someone trained to use the Force. And then number 4 on my list is Star Wars A New Hope. Hear me out. It's only because my top 3 are like my top 3 favorites. But I felt like, because this is the original, it has to be up there too. So I put it at number 4. So it's just not in my top 3, but it's definitely in my top Star Wars films ever, and in my top films ever watched, definitely. The reason, though, it's not in my top 3, guys, is
I felt like it has aged a little, and some of the acting is a little corny. Some people go British for a second. The movie's perfectly fine, guys. It's a great movie. Obi-Wan Kenobi is my favorite Star Wars character, hands down. And Alec Guinness's performance as him is iconic. It's a great movie, guys. If you haven't seen Star Wars A New Hope, then what are you even doing watching this list? Anyways, number 3, guys, is Star Wars Force Awakens. Now, really, don't kill me, guys. I have my reasons, okay? I found this one actually with more rewatchability quality in it. The graphics are obviously a little more updated than as opposed to A New Hope. Rey was interesting at this point in time. It was still a cool character. Kylo Ren was interesting, and there was the big, oh my gosh, it's Han Solo's son, and then pull off the mask and he looks like a Shakespeare kid. But honestly, that was not what I was expecting when he pulled off the mask. I saw this guy that should be on Broadway. I mean, really, it was. But then again, this is a space opera, so I suppose it kind of fit. But anyways, I love this movie, guys. It's really cool. I know it's kind of a rehashing of A New Hope. I didn't much care for the Starkiller base. I did like to get to know Poe, Finn, Rey. Number 2. Now, the last 2 on my list, guys. Star Wars, The Revenge of the Sith. I enjoyed this. I liked seeing Anakin go from a little boy to this. This was what all of us Star Wars fans were waiting for. This is what all of us have been leaning towards, was to see Anakin turn evil. And for me, for the most part, they delivered. I enjoyed this movie. I have a good memory of seeing this movie in theaters. Maybe that's part of the reason it's so high up on my list. Remember, guys, it's just my personal list. You guys don't have to agree with me. This is not the perfect Star Wars film list. This is just how I see them and my favorites, and in what order. I don't think Hayden Christensen was necessarily a great pick, but I don't think he was bad. The Opera House scene between him and Palpatine is still one of the greatest Star Wars moments in a film ever, in a Star Wars movie ever. And then, guys, I'm going to make this last part really quick. So, number 1. Number 1 on my list is Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. I think that's for obvious reasons, guys. No, I am your father, the big reveal. All of this leads towards movie magic. This is why we go to the movies. This is why movies are made. This is what made Star Wars great, was this movie. This is what put it on the map. This is what made it an icon. This is what made... Earlier I said Star Wars used to be an event. This is the movie that made Star Wars an event. I love this movie. George Lucas was a mastermind when he came to creating these characters. He actually did not direct Empire Strikes Back, interesting enough. Yoda was one of the greatest additions to the Star Wars mythos. This was the movie he was introduced in. Same with Lando Calrissian. This was a great movie, guys. Much darker in tone than most of the original films, and I think that's why I like it. The darker ones are usually my favorites. It's a great movie, hands down, guys. So that's my list. My Star Wars, all Star Wars films ranked. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. My Us review will be coming, and so will Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile will also be coming up here soon, guys. I love you guys. I review movie history so you can prepare for your movie future. I'll see you guys next time. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.